Good morning students and welcome to the online classes. I hope you have watched the previous two videos and have understood the chapter till here. Now before starting with the third and the final video, first I would like to revise what we have done in the previous class. Now the name of this chapter is Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. So in this chapter, alright, in the previous video we have read about the Anglo-Boer War, alright, that took place in the first decade of the 20th century. Here Nelson Mandela tells us that how the white people who were living in South Africa, they patched up their differences and then they formed a system of racial discrimination in which what did they do? They decided to oppress and discriminate the black natives living in South Africa. He also tells us that how at the end of this 20th century the things exactly changed, and instead of this racial government, now there was a government that was democratically elected by the people, and here we had equality and here we had justice. The next thing that Nelson Mandela talks about in the previous part was that he was the sum total of all the freedom fighters, all the patriots. Alright, so he's not taking all the credit that it was me who has brought freedom to South Africa, but he said that all the freedom fighters together, all the patriots together, they have come together, and then only we have been able to win this freedom. Okay, that is why he said that I am the sum total of all the patriots. Now the next important thing that he talks about is the depth of oppression creates height of character. Here he talked about that when a person goes through certain adversity, alright, when we go through some bad time, it is that time that brings out our character. So with depths of oppression, or with depths when we are deep in trouble, at that time what happens, our true character, it comes out. So it was because of the oppression of the white masters there in South Africa that great patriots, great freedom fighters came out in South Africa, the same way that they did in India. Afterwards we talk about a country's greatest wealth is its people. Now here Nelson Mandela tells us that he believes that the greatest wealth of the nation is not the gems that are under the soil. They are actually the people that are living in his country, that they are the true wealth of a country, because they are truer and finer than the purest diamonds. It is because of the people that a country is made up of. Then the next thing that he talks about is of courage. Now according to him, courage is not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. So he says that what is courage? Courage is actually when we overcome our fear, when we have victory over our fear. So when we talk about courage, we should not think that I should not be afraid of something or I should not have fear in me. Alright, the main thing is this, that everybody has fear, but the person who overcomes this fear, he is the person who is going to triumph over it, and he is the person who is courageous. Alright, so this is one of the important things that we should take in our life, that we should not be afraid of something, but we should be courageous and we should overcome our fear. So I hope you have understood the chapter till here. Now let us quickly move on with the next paragraph. Okay students, let's start with the chapter. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So here Nelson Mandela is saying that love is an emotion that can come naturally to a person. So if a person can be taught to hate, in the same way a person can also be taught to love. Even in the grimmest times in prison, grimmest means saddest, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. So he's saying that even in the saddest times when he was in prison, when they were pushed to their limits, then also sometimes he could see humanity in the guards that were present in the prison, and that little bit of glimmer of hope, all right, of that humanity gave him the courage to keep on moving on. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. Extinguished means put out. So he is saying that a man's goodness is like a flame, all right, that you can hide but you cannot destroy it. In life, every man has twin obligations. Now underline obligations. Obligations means duty. So he is saying that in life a person has two duties. First is obligations to his family, that means duty toward his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, and his second obligation is towards his people, his community, his country. Alright, so one is towards his family, another one is towards his country, towards the society. In a civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill his obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. So he is saying in a society where there is justice, where there is equality, where there is kindness, a person is able to fulfill his obligation, okay, both the obligation according to his tendencies, alright, according to his inclinations means according to his tendency or of behavior and according to his abilities. But in a country like South Africa, when he is saying country like South Africa, he means that a country that is enslaved by some other power. It was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color. Man of my birth and color means that he was born in a race, alright, which was being subdued by the white masters, okay, to fulfill both of those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color, when he's saying a man of color, that means a black person, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. So we see the atrocities that was inflicted on the black people. He's saying that in a country like South Africa, what used to happen, even if a person who is black, even if he tried to live like a human being, then what was done to him? He was punished and he was isolated, he was boycotted, he was left alone. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart. A twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. Now here first of all underline inevitable. Inevitable is given on the right hand side. Unavoidable. Then ripped. Ripped means taken away. So he is saying that if a person, he tried to fulfill his duty, alright, so two obligations he has said, duty towards his family and duty towards his country. So if a person of color, he tried to fulfill his do his duty, then what happened? Then he was ripped away from his family and home. He was taken away from his family and he was put in prison, or he had to run away from them, and he had to live a life of secrecy. He has to hide from the white masters. Okay. A twilight existence of secrecy. Twilight means very short. Alright, if you see the twilight period, it is for a very short time. Alright, so he is saying that because they did not know how long they are going to live. Okay, their life was always in danger. A twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was preventing from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father and a husband. So he is also telling you that in the beginning he did not want to serve his people, but when he tried to serve his country, then he found out that if he is doing one of his duty of serving his people, then he is unable to fulfill his duty towards his family. Now, next paragraph. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free. Alright, he is saying that Nelson Mandela, he did not have any hunger to be free. Why? Because he was born free. Alright, free in every way that I could know. Now here, just in this paragraph, you can mark this paragraph with a bracket or something and write there next to it, as a child. What freedom meant to him as a child. Alright, so this can also come in your answer in detail also. It can come in your answer in brief also. Okay, his different stages of freedom, what he felt freedom was, that can come in answer in detail, while different stages alone can be asked and answered in brief. So as a child, what he felt was freedom. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies is maize or corn, mealies under the stars, and ride the broad backs of slow moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided means lived by or followed, abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. So he is saying that when he was a child, alright, like every child that is born in this world, okay, what was freedom for him? It was to run around his mother's in the field near his mother's hut, alright, to swim in the stream, and to roast the corn or the maize under the stars, and to ride on the bulls. Until and unless he followed the rules and regulations made by his father and by his tribe, alright, he was free to do whatever he wanted. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. Illusion means not real. That I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. So when he was a child, alright, you know what freedom meant for him. But when he started learning things, then he realized that his freedom has already been taken away by the government. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased and go where I chose. So if you underline this, alright, this is as a student, what freedom meant to Nelson Mandela when he was a student. So he's saying that at that time, alright, he only wanted freedom for himself, and that freedom he calls as a transitory freedom, that is temporary freedom, transition, it is moving from one end to another. And that was to just stay out at night, alright, to read what he pleased, and to go wherever he chose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg. Now he's talking about when he became a young man, what freedom meant for him. I yearned. Yearn means I longed, I desired for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential. Alright, at that time, what was freedom for him? That to achieve his potential, what he deserved, that, to achieve that, of earning my keep, to make a living, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Alright, so he's saying that these were the freedoms when he became a young man that he wanted. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. And after that he realized that he was not free to do any of these things. But at the same time he also realized that he was not alone. Even his brothers and sisters, alright, the people in Africa, the black natives in Africa, they were also not free. Okay, they were slaves. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed. Okay, so it was not only his freedom that was reduced. Curtailed means reduced, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. What does this mean? Who looked like I did? The black natives of Africa. So it was not only him that his freedom was reduced. It was everyone who was black, all their freedom was reduced. Then that is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. So when he realized that his own countrymen, they were slaves, then his hunger for freedom changed into the greater hunger for the freedom of the whole country. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one, that drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal. So underline here law-abiding attorney. Attorney means lawyer. To become a criminal. Why did a law-abiding citizen, a lawyer, become a criminal? Why? Because he had the desire that all the black natives in Africa, all people in Africa should get freedom to live a life with dignity and with self-respect. This feeling that everyone should live their life with dignity and self-respect, this moved Nelson Mandela to seek and to get freedom for his country. And in that process, he even became a criminal himself in the eyes of the law at that time. That turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. Alright, so everything from a law-abiding attorney, he became a criminal. From a family-loving husband, he became a homeless person. Alright, from a life-loving person, he became a monk. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man. He's saying that I am not very special. It's not that I am having some sacrificing qualities in me. Okay, I am same as the other man next to me. But what is different in him? But I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. But something different that was there in Nelson Mandela was that he was not satisfied in enjoying those small freedoms when he knew that his fellow brothers and sisters were not free. Okay, he was now not only looking at his own interest, but he was also looking at the freedom of his own brothers and sisters. Now underline this. Freedom is indivisible. What is the meaning of indivisible? it cannot be divided. We cannot divide freedom. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. He's saying that if there were chains, if they were captured, if they were imprisoned, alright, if they were enslaved, if some of my people were enslaved, so I felt that all the people were enslaved. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. Okay, so he's saying that if a number of people in his country are enslaved, he felt that all of his people were enslaved. And if all the people were enslaved, he felt chains on himself. He felt a prisoner himself. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated. Liberated means set free. So a person, oppressor, who is dominating other, who is oppressing other. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. Alright, now here he is bringing the oppressor and the oppressed both. So he is saying that it is not only that the oppressed should be set free. Okay, oppressed means a person on whom the cruelty is being done, and oppressor is the person who is doing the cruelty. So he does not believe that only the oppressed should be set free. He believes that both oppressor and the oppressed should be set free. He is going to give you reason why. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. Why does he feel? Because he says that if someone is taking away somebody's freedom, then he is a slave of hatred. Alright. For example, suppose I am there. Okay, I hate someone. Alright. What will happen whenever that person, alright, suppose X person is there. If X gets promotion, or if something good happens in the life of this X, what will happen to me? Alright, I will feel jealous. Alright, and I will hate him or her more and more. Alright, and I will keep on thinking about that person, or I will try to make up plans to create problem in the life of this person. Alright, so what has happened? Now I have become a prisoner of my hatred. All 24 hours only one thing is there in my mind, that is hatred towards the person. Alright, nothing is happening to that person. Alright, but what is happening to me? That I am becoming a prisoner of my hatred. So he is saying that this oppressor is a prisoner of his hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow mindfulness. Alright. So prejudice, the meaning is there, a strong dislike without any good reason. Okay, so we create these prejudices in our mind. Okay, we create this narrow-mindedness instead of being a far-sighted person. Okay, such oppressors, they become narrow-minded, they become prejudiced. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. So he is saying in both the cases, whether you are taking somebody's freedom or if someone is taking your freedom, in both the cases you are a prisoner, alright, and you are not free. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. So he believes that both the oppressed and the oppressor are robbed of their humanity. So both of them requires to come out of this hatred, and both of them need to be set free. So students, we have finished the chapter Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. I hope you have understood the chapter. I want you to go through these videos again and again, and I want you to complete the notes that I have sent you and the assignments that I have sent you. And please, I hope that you have also answered the multiple choice questions. Till we meet in the next video, stay safe at home.